University of California, Santa Barbara graduate student tweets that if he had a time machine, he'd go back and assassinate Jesus Christ, or maybe go back even earlier and kill him as an infant. Why not go full progressive douchebag if you're going to do this and try to force Mary to undergo an abortion? Can you imagine the epic beatdown the angel Gabriel would lay on that skinny jeans wearing little pustule? Sublime smackdown, baby. Smackdown, Seraphim style. I'm Dr. Duke, she's Katie, and we're dealing with these punks in the Dr. Duke Show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dr. Duke Show, the only program that keeps you educated on the craziness impacting K-12 classrooms and college campuses around the world. Today, we deal with three academic punks. We start first in the land of fruits and nuts, California, as a University of California, Santa Barbara teaching assistant and doctoral candidate in religious studies, of all things, tweets that he wishes he could go back in time and kill Jesus Christ as an infant. Okay, where to start with this one? Let me just simply remind everybody that these university professors, we're going to do 3 stories on university professors today. Please try to sit through all of them. I want you to have a really clear understanding of who these people are, these PhDs. And do they really, because they have the word doctor before their name, do they really deserve your respect? Do they deserve your hard-earned money? Do you really want to send your kids to be educated by this clown car show?
That's a very good question. Well, and if you're going to send your kids to UC Santa Barbara, where if they take a religious studies course, they could run into Tim Snedeker. That's his name, Timothy Snedeker. And he is a doctoral student in religious studies. And he decided, you know what, I'm going to go on Twitter and say just the most asinine things.
Now look at the question that prompted this. One of his probably douchey friends asked him, if you were dropped 2,000 years back in time with nothing but the knowledge you have now, what would you do? He said, would assassinate Jesus of Nazareth. Besides the fact that that's already happened once, right? It's already happened once, and it didn't go so well for the enemies of Christianity. I think this guy. Do you have a picture of this guy, Mike? Again, if he had a time machine, he really needs to go back before skinny jeans and Kramer haircuts from the Seinfeld shows. That would be a really better improvement, a use of his time. Go back before skinny jeans and hipster doofus haircuts.
Well, in a follow-up tweet, he decided he would also consider when to murder Jesus. Why not, you know what, maybe do it when he's a baby. That would be a good time for him to just murder Jesus. Even
as a joke, they're more than happy with the concept of murdering babies. They're more than happy with the concept of going back in time and killing people. Again, I wonder if you asked this guy the same question. Would you, with all your progressive values, go back in time and kill Joseph Stalin as a baby, or kill Vladimir Lenin as a baby? Karl Marx I'm kind of doubting the answer would be no. And of course, I think what he's trying to tell us, Katie, is that how much better the world would have been over the last 2,000 years if there was no such thing as Christianity.
Well, of course, but he has announced that he has repented, and
even his repentance.
Yeah, so he changed his profile to say that it says Tim has repented. Now he wants to save Jesus. And then he deleted the tweets and deleted his entire account. So I don't know what actually happened to Tim Snedeker.
He's just being a smartass, is what he's being.
Of course he is.
But under that smartass, this is like every liberal professor I've ever had, which is to say like 99% of the professors I've ever had. They snark, right? And it's a big funny game while they're taking their shots at traditional values, right? And when you call them on it, I mean, that's a pretty heinous thing to say. It's not the kind of thing he ever would have said about the Prophet Muhammad. I mean, you want to end 1,400 years of slavery and oppression? Go back and kill Muhammad. But he'd never say that.
Oh,
because that would, I guarantee you that, go back to that picture one more time. I'm sorry. Look at that dude, man. Can we get him some vitamin C? I thought scurvy and rickets went away with the Royal Navy in the 19th century. Can we just get that guy a Lime Ricky or something? People like this is what they are. They're ineffectual. The douche is the only word I know. He's a douche. And they do this all the time. They're so brave when it comes to offending Christians, which is the least. And doesn't that tell you something about Christianity? Even 2,000 years after the Savior died, does it not tell you anything about Christianity? Of all the world's religion, the one you can really insult with impunity, and they're not going to do anything to you, is Christianity. Try pulling that off again in Islam and see what you get.
Well, and that's the thing. They know that they can get away with
That's
doing
right.
it because there are certain groups that they can target because they are doctoral students, or they have their doctor already before their name, or the PhD after their name. And what they do is, because they are so intellectual and elite, they are above the rest of us, they can get away with targeting these specific groups. I've seen them many a time.
And I've said this many times on this show, that this is a religious studies person. How many times have I pointed out that if you want to study religion, don't take religious studies. The entire edifice of academic religious studies now is the unmaking of Christianity. It's holding up non-Western religions by people who don't believe in God. These professors like Mr. Snedeker, they really don't believe in anything. They're wandering postmodern idiots. But they'll hold up non-Western religions, even violent and murderous ones, if it helps tear down the edifice of Christianity.
And the thing is, because they don't need to hide actually what they're doing anymore, it says it right on his profile. You can tell who he is and what he believes. His department profile says that he has an interest in psychoanalysis, political theology, and philosophy of religion. And on top of that, he has an entire statement on behalf of the department about Black Lives Matter and how they take a strong stance on it, and they support what Black Lives Matter is doing, and all those other things, and how it's institutional racism, blah blah, all the talking points that we've gotten.
Wonder how little Timmy would react if I said, hey, if I had a time machine that took me back 50 years, I'd go back and kill Martin Luther King. Not because he's black, but because he was a reverend. I mean, why not, right? I mean, if the evils of Jesus Christ have been manifested across his religion, I mean, killing King in his Christian version of civil rights, all that non-violent aggression, Tim, that you're all about Black Matters now, burning things down. Again, how much money does it cost to go to UC Santa Barbara? And if your kids go there thinking they're going to take a major like religious studies that's going to be wholesome and give them a fair understanding of the text in question, think again, Mom and Dad.
In the state of South Carolina lies Winthrop University. And at Winthrop University lies a professor who is a Karen, unlike all of the Karens who have ever Karened in their Karen life. And before all of you start typing about how your name is Karen and you hate that that's the name, I'm not the one who gave it to you. Don't blame me. But we have a Karen situation here. And it starts with April Mustian is her actual name, but she's a Karen. She's an incoming professor, actually, at Winthrop, and the director of undergraduate special education. That's what she will be upcoming.
So, if I may clarify that, this is a person who's supposed to be all about educating children and kids.
Special education.
Special education. All right.
Okay. So that's what she will be doing. She was at Illinois State University. But even before she got to Winthrop, she decided, you know what? I have some time on my hands right now. Let's go on Facebook. And so she did. She wrote, if you are a white K-12 teacher who teaches Black children and you are on your FB, Facebook, posting pro-police, anti-Black rhetoric, I hope and pray those are posts and beliefs you are willing to stand by in front of the Black families you are supposed to also love and serve. I hope those are posts you are willing to stand by when district personnel get screenshots of your ignorance. This is a new day, folks. People are getting fired for being racist on social media. Don't think you are above reproach, especially in this day and age when opportunities to unlearn racism and bias are at your fingertips. And if your first thought is to delete me because of this post, chances are I already have some screenshots.
You know, this is the second of our three rogues gallery today, our three rogue professors. And if you think these are outliers, you're nuts. If you think this doesn't capture the ethos of what a typical, particularly humanities professor is, you really better think again. In fact, I think all three of our professors are humanities professors. Would you see the typical chemistry professor engaging in this kind of behavior? Don't think so. The average biologist, no, I don't think so. It's the humanities professors. As a humanities professors, I'm very familiar with this particular species of douche. Species of douche. But the thing that gets me about this is you go back to her post. She literally says, this is a new day. People are getting fired for being racist on social media. She is being racist on social media. Look at every assumption that she makes, every statement that she makes. She is a racist. She is basically telling white people that unless you completely support Black Lives Matter, or if you even dare to support the police, because you're white. Notice what she says. If you are a white K-12 teacher, well, what if I'm a black K-12 teacher who supports the police and has that on my Facebook? You gonna come after me, April? No, because you're a coward. Just like our friend Tim Snedeker, who only goes after Christianity because he knows nothing's gonna happen to him. You're going after white educators because you know nobody really cares one way or another. You can say whatever you want. But a piece of advice to you, April, it's a bad thing that you're going in, before you even set one foot on campus, before you even taught your first class at Winthrop, you are literally using your position as a professor of education to lecture and demand and threaten the professions of teachers who don't see eye to eye to you. And the fact that you've made pro-police the same thing as racism, that you've made anybody, any white person who is pro-police is by definition racist, you are engaging in exactly the kind of racism you say you want to fight. And the pathetic thing is, you should get what you asked for. People are getting fired. Is Winthrop going to fire her? No.
Dr. April Mustian will join the faculty of Winthrop's College of Education starting in August. She is not yet a Winthrop employee, and she is not currently our employee, and the post is from her personal social media account. We have no other comment at this time.
Right, and if I were about to start my job at Winthrop in August, and they found out in July that I had, attended a Klan meeting, or that, I had made a bunch of negative tweets about Barack Obama that questioned his citizenship and his race, I'm pretty sure Winthrop would have not have said, she's not our problem yet. All that happened before August. So therefore, we're going to bring her in and we're not going to comment. Way to go, Winthrop. I promise you, if this were anybody else making statements about any other religious or ethnic or racial group besides a white person about white people, she would not have this job.
And I don't know if she's just not standing by her statement anymore, but of course she deleted her account.
That's what it is. Karen's got a Karen, right?
Karen.
And when you get caught calling people out, and when it happens, what do? You big, tough, at least give Timmy Snedeker a little bit of credit, right? He tried to turn it into a joke. He tried to play off his hateful statements by making a little bit of a joke. He didn't immediately, although
he did delete himself.
Then he did. Timmy pulled a Karen. All right.
Now, at the University of Louisville, President Neely Bendapudi has been quite busy because apparently at least 75 complaints from faculty have been filed for what Ricky Jones said. Who's Ricky Jones? Well, Jones is a professor and the chair of the Pan-African Studies Department. Here's the full story. So early, like in March, before COVID hit, or we got shut everything down, a student at the university was in an LGBT class. Okay. That student decided to pass out a pamphlet from the Living Waters Publications, which is a Christian group. Inside the pamphlet, it said, perhaps you believe you are gay, or maybe you are sympathetic toward homosexuality, and you think that what people do sexually is their own business. Whatever the case, I want to convince you that you are sitting in a car on a railroad track with a train coming, and you don't know it. Okay. Right. So this happened. Jones got wind of it, and then he decided on the Ricky Jones Show, his own podcast, to say the following.
Try that. Come to my class with that. Come to one of my classes with that. I will drag your ass into my class. Me and my 50-some-odd students will stomp you, beat you within an inch of your life, then drag you out of the room and deny that we did it. You'll come back. Police say, he said you beat him down. Like, I have never seen him before. You know what I'm saying?
First of all, this is Ricky. Ricky, when he's talking to his faculty colleagues, yes, I think I'll have the Dijon mustard with that. I mean, at this university.
Great poupon.
I mean, when I got hired here, I talked like this. And now when I'm on my podcast, I'm talking to my homeboys. I'm talking like Dave Chappelle in one of his skits. Bring them, mother. I'll stomp them. I stomp them mofos. Bring him in. Me and my 50 homeboys, we gonna stomp them. Right? Mm-hmm. All right. It's like Hillary Clinton grade, right? Slipping into character, right? Slipping into character, right? This kind of physical threat, literally, we're going to beat you down for daring to bring a Christian pamphlet into your LGBTQ course, right? Let's just flip this around. You're in Timmy Schnidker's religious class. You're in little Ricketts Timmy's class on deconstructing Christianity, right? And all of a sudden, you're sitting there, and a bunch of little Christian kids who took the course thinking they were going to get to read the Bible, and now they're learning about psychoanalytical ways of deconstructing the Bible. All of a sudden, a student who happens to be an LGBTQ student brings in a pamphlet, passes it out to all the little Christian kids, why their view of Christianity is hateful, why Christianity is transphobic, homophobic. Do you think Ricky Ricardo here would get his homeboys? And go back to the first picture of him. Don't you just love the Malcolm X stance, right? There he is, right? He's got the glasses. He's got the famous portrait of Malcolm X thing going on. Get over yourself. And what does it say? That 75 of your own liberal colleagues said that you went too far.
So university interim dean David Owen heard about the situation and the fact that Ricky said this on a podcast, and he sent a letter notifying that Jones's comments were in violation of the school's code of conduct. And of course, then Jones goes onto social media, onto Twitter, and posts the letter that was sent to him. In the letter, it states, "While you may believe that your threats were rhetorical and should not be taken seriously, others clearly saw them as sincere and threatening. You are hereby warned that any further similar conduct, whether serious or rhetorical, will result in the dean's office conducting a special review of your conduct as chair and issuing a recommendation to the provost for removal. You would then be prohibited from any university leadership position for a period of 5 years." And that is actually quite shocking that dean did anything like that, because I have not seen any professor pretty much to date be punished or threatened even with some sort of a punishment.
You're warning him that if he engages in hateful, violent speech again, you're going to investigate him. Literally, that's what they said. We will, if you do it again.
Could lose it.
I get it.
I'm looking for some positive here.
I know you are, but I don't want to have positives today. We're dealing with the douche brigade. And it's not a positive, because if it was you who said it when you were teaching, or I who said it when I was teaching, do you think we would have got a warning that if you do it again, we're going to investigate you?
Well, maybe.
Do you think that would have happened?
Maybe
And let me ask you, right? Go back to little April Mustian, right? What do you think it is that's keeping Ricky from getting actually investigated instead of threatened with an investigation, and actually recommended for removal rather than threatened him? And what do you think's keeping? Do you think the dean listened to the podcast and said, "Man, when he slipped into that ghetto accent, I'm just so intimidated. He's so authentic." When Ricky started thising and thatting, scatting and bebopping, as George Costanza would say, scatting and bebopping all over the place. I mean, that poor dean was just intimidated by the authentic blackness of little Malcolm XP.
It's time for some real education. In 1949, George Orwell published 1984. It was Orwell's 9th and final book completed in his lifetime. Thematically, 1984 is about the consequences of government overreach, totalitarianism, mass surveillance, and the repressive regimentation of all persons and behaviors within society. More broadly, it examines the role of truth and facts within politics and their manipulation. 1984 has become a classic literary example of political and dystopian fiction. It also popularized the adjective Orwellian as an adjective.
Yeah, and I just have to say, you've got to read this book. If you read it in college, you read it back in high school, just read it again. It is stunning how much of what's going on in the world today he predicted, what Orwell saw coming. And it wasn't because he was some prophet. It wasn't because he was gifted in ways that other people are not. It's just that he was a logical thinker. And he could see what was happening in fascist and socialist countries around him. This is 1949, right? Remember that he started his career, Eric Blair is his real name. Eric Blair, George Orwell is his pen name. He started his career as a Fabian socialist. And he had come to see what was happening both with the fascists in Germany and what was happening in the Soviet Union and Communist China. These things he began to see as predictable in their patterns. And so I really urge you, go back and read the book. If you haven't read the book, make time to read it. I know, Katie, that it's one of your favorite books, and you're recommending it constantly to people. Let's just take one little tiny statement out from the book and show you how prescient Orwell was. Every record, he's imagining the future under this kind of radical runaway. I'm going to use the word progressivism. If you think about the fact that the Nazis were socialist, the National Socialist German Workers' Party, that the Bolsheviks were actually communist Soviets, communist socialists, right? So you had two strains of socialism. One morphing into national fascism, the other one morphing into Soviet communism, but they both have the same aims and objectives. And Orwell saw that on the cusp of 1949, the Cold War, the looming Korean War, what was going down with the blockade of Germany that was coming, this idea of East versus West. This is what's going to happen if we're not careful. Every record will have been destroyed or falsified. Every book rewritten. Every picture has been repainted. Every statue and every street building has been renamed. Every date has been altered. 1619, anyone? And the process is continuing day by day and minute by minute. History has stopped. Nothing exists except an endless present in which the party is always right. Every word, every sentence we could spend a half an hour on. How about the idea that history has stopped? You have literally today a Illinois, and this will be in the show next week, an Illinois lawmaker today called for the halting of all history teaching in Illinois schools. Stop it. Stop teaching history. Because by teaching history, you are teaching kids to be white supremacists and racist. Stop it until we bring the rewritten 1619 curriculum into your kids' school. Stop teaching history until you're teaching our propaganda. Go back to that quote again. Every statue, every picture will have been renamed or destroyed. Every street and building will be renamed. Every bust of any founding father or traditional has got to be pulled down. And the process is continuing day by day and minute by minute. And history has stopped. Nothing exists except an endless present. This is the word presentism. We will only judge the past by our politics today. And because today we are X, anything in the past that doesn't conform with us is no good, must be gotten rid of. And guess what? That means pretty much every aspect of our history and culture. One last little quote from that book. The most effective way to destroy people is to deny and obliterate their own understanding of their history. No better way to destroy a people, a nation, a culture, than to make them forget where they were.
Go read 1984. All right, as always, you can follow us on Facebook and Parler. And if you have a question for our Friday Q&A, visit freedomproject.com/askduke or send us a message on social media. Don't forget, the Dr. Duke Show is offered on more than 12 podcast platforms such as Apple, Stitcher, and Spotify. Simply subscribe and consider leaving us that coveted, precious 5-star review to keep the show growing. Now we're going to wrap things up with our fun fact of the day. In Louisville, about 90% of the country's disco balls are produced each year. Also, Louisville Slugger makes 1.8 million bats per year. So get your bat, start smashing those disco balls.
Bats and balls. I wonder what our psychoanalytic religious student Timmy Schnittker would say about that. Remember, he was also a psychoanalytic critic, right? I wonder what he'd make of that. And that's our show. For Freedom Project, I'm Dr. Duke. She's Katie. Until next time, stay educated, my friends.